in the West. Hello, hello. My name is Natalie, and I am the founder and CEO of Happy Healthy Women. And welcome to our Tuesday 20-minute lives. I am joined today by the incredible Deb Fletcher. Deb is a trailblazer in our Toronto East branch. She is a realtor with Royal LePage Estate Brokerage. And we are here. We're going to chat a little bit about nesting. Deb is known for the nesting piece of real estate, and so I'm so excited to have her here today. Deb, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure.
In this space, in this virtual space.
In our global members group, and I know that there are a few people tuning in today, but I'm really excited to chat with you because real estate is such a hot topic right now. I mean, you know, with everything that's going on right now, it's a little bit crazy for those, you know, who I know are in the market and are part of the industry. And so today we're going to talk trends. But why don't we start off by having you share a little bit more about yourself and you know what it is that you do around in real estate.
Okay. Well, I was born. No, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you when. But I grew up in Barrie, Ontario, actually. And when I was 7, my parents moved there, and they moved into a brand new house. It was just built by a builder, and he sent us this free magazine for a couple of years, I guess, as a gift, and it was called Perfect Home. And I've been obsessed with home magazines ever since. And I was 7, and I remember and I wish I had them today because they were from okay, I'm going to confess, they were from the 1970s, and you would have guessed that anyway, that's when I was a child. And you know, it would be just fantastic to see, you know, the design, what was being featured, you know, the shag carpets and everything now. So I've always been obsessed with that kind of thing. And when I became a realtor, it was now I have a reason to go through other people's homes. I can even go into their homes and open up their closets. And it's kind of weird when I do that by mistake, like at a dinner party and someone's showing me around their home for the first time. And I have to physically restrain myself and stop myself from opening up their closets. But I've learned to deal with that. So when I started my business, you know, we have this brand behind us. Like, I'm with Royal LePage. So, and I don't know if everybody knows, but Royal LePage is Canada's real estate company. We have been around for over 100 years. We are 100% Canadian. And so hashtag shop local, I always say. But when I became a realtor, I've got that brand behind me, but I also thought about, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. You know, I should be branding myself. So that's why my website is called Helping You Nest, because that idea of a nest, oh, I have one right here. So that idea of a nest is just so appealing to me because whenever I move, you know, change residences, I immediately start my nesting, as I call it, and I am, true confession, I am a Virgo, and so I remember when I was in my 20s, and I moved a lot. You know, roommates would get different apartments here and there, and the day that I moved, everything would have to be unpacked. My art would be hung on the walls. That's I know it's a bit obsessive, but
Yeah.
but you know, and people that, you know, still had unpacked boxes a month or two after they moved, I just couldn't understand that. So that's why I'm a realtor, because I just love, and I love helping people do that and go through that process. So actually in my business, I have the opportunity to help anyone from, you know, first time renters, because as realtors, we also help people find homes in places that are listed for lease on MLS, so, or through some listing service. So I take them from that, through to buying the first home, um, upsizing or upgrading their home to a larger home, and then eventually downsizing and maybe, selling off the large home and buying a condo. Like, so there's this whole cycle and this circle of life, and I get to be part of any stage in that nesting that we have. So it's just, I mean, yes, I'm a very happy person because I get to do something that doesn't feel like work. So yes.
I love it. I love it. And what is so nice about this is that you come from a different perspective when you are serving your clients, right? Like I mean, you know what it's like to want to be in the perfect space for yourself and to, have everything set so that you are happy in your space, right? So you're not just like wanting to make a sale, right? You really are coming from a heart-centered place, which is what we're all about in Happy Healthy Women, right? It's about service. And so I love this. I love your perspective and I love your approach. So let's talk a little bit about some trends that are happening right now. So what are you seeing? I mean, up to you where you want this conversation to go. For me, it's like, well, let's take a broad look at what's going on and then, zone in. But yeah, what would you like to share in terms of what's happening right now in the market?
Well, you know, um, I think that there's a lot that is shared in the news. So as much as we are obsessed with real estate, it is because it is a newsworthy topic, and so we see a lot reported in the news, and so the real estate market can sort of come off as almost negative, particularly when we're talking about the rising prices. I mean, of course that's negative, um, but but in terms of the context of why those prices are rising, I think that that's an important thing to talk about as well, that it's not just people being greedy, and it's not you know realtors driving the prices. It's the market itself, meaning that it's a simple supply and demand issue, in that there isn't enough supply. There are not enough homes for sale for the number of people that want to purchase them. So then
Mhm.
that drives the price of each home up. And it really is just as simple as that. And it does make it difficult for people to get into the market. I'm not sure what can be done about that. Because when you think about it, we need homes to materialize in order to make this whole process a fair, equitable, that everybody can find a home. So I'm not sure how that happens. And I know that that's not really an answer, but that's where the market comes from in terms of the prices going up. And
Mhm.
that's just the reality. So for the GTA in particular, there will always be people coming to the city. That's never going to stop, barring some major catastrophe. So that's what happens in the city, and then we see that spreading out to those cities that are within commuting distance. Um, as I said, I grew up in Barrie, Ontario, and my father actually commuted to Toronto. And when he first started commuting, it was a lot easier than it is now in terms of the number of cars on the road. But that's still a long way to commute. But he chose to do that, and a lot of other people are doing that. He was sort of ahead of that trend. Now we see, of course, with the pandemic, that there are more opportunities to work from home, and companies have come to realize what some organizations have known all along, and that is that people are not only as productive working from home, they can be even more productive, and that there are studies out there that show that that you you can manage that with your employees. I know there's lots of companies that are struggling with supervising and managing people virtually, leading people virtually, but there's lots of resources out there. There's companies that teach training programs on them and on that topic, and so if you think, oh, people are actually more productive working at home, then how do we come up with ways that can accommodate people who can afford to live outside of the city and would not be able to afford living in the city, whatever city that happens to be. So we see
Mhm.
some trends happening there, and as you know, you probably read in the news that something like 50,000 people exited stage left or stage right, whatever the term is, and left the city because they could work from home and were able to settle in an area that they could both afford and that provided them with more joy. So there's all
Mhm.
these factors, and so when I just wanted to sort of put out there that the market is what it is, and there's really nothing that can be done about it. And so, what can we do? And so, what I find interesting is sort of these new ideas that are coming out. One of them is the laneway housing, which is interesting that that legislation was passed in the city of Toronto, and it had already existed, I believe, in Ottawa and in Vancouver. And that is for those that have laneways at the back of their property where they generally park their cars. And a lot of times there would have been an existing garage there that would have been built for the horses and the carriages. And and now the legislation provides an option to build housing, and why it's important to do that legally is that obviously the utilities have to run to those laneway housing, so we've got water, electricity, everything else, but also emergency vehicles have to be within a certain number of meters um, to reach a home in case of a fire or any other kind of emergency. So they sort of have to get around that as well. But if that infill idea happens, that will create more housing within the city. Um, I think that's a really neat idea, and the next sort of step, which is a different take on that, is the garden suites. So that's without a lane, but having some sort of structure in the back of your property to house people. And again, it that hasn't passed yet, but it would have to comply with all of the bylaws and the legislation. But how else
Mhm.
do we create these living opportunities?
Right. Well, and on that note, we obviously see that we continue to build up, especially in the city of Toronto. So, talk to me about what's happening with condos. I heard a little while ago that condo sales were way down and now they're climbing back up. And so, what's going on there?
Right. So the pandemic happened and had a huge impact on the sale of condos because people were exiting downtown. So a number of things happened. There was a flood of condos that came onto the market because of the pandemic and the changes with the Airbnb regulations. So people that had purchased a condo with the purpose of renting it out, they now had to sell because they weren't receiving the rental income, whether that was from a long-term rental or a short-term rental like Airbnb. So the supply and demand, it happened the other way. So there was more supply than there was demand because people didn't want to work or they didn't want to live downtown because they were no longer working downtown. So there was that sort of balancing out that happened, and now condos will never go out of style. And again, it's often the first stepping stone in home ownership is buying a condo. And so there is still this volume of people that are intending to buy their first home, and that will be a condo. And that's so that we're seeing that market again, those number of sales and also the price are increasing, and also the price of condominiums are increasing
Mhm,
as
mhm.
as as people start to come back to Toronto and to the downtown core.
Got it. So there is, they, because you would know, more than the average person, right? Being in the industry, you would know. So there is this trend of people now deciding to come back into the city as business starts to pick up again, and as offices will start to open up again. Is that what you're seeing, or what the market is anticipating?
Yeah, so it's not that those people that left are coming back. It's just that the natural immigration into Toronto, rather, whether it's from places outside of Toronto, in Ontario, or even from immigration outside of Canada, that's opening up again, and so that will start to increase as more people are able to come to the country and able to move around province to province or within the province. Then they will start coming back to Toronto, and that is going to happen again. The
Yeah,
universities are going to be in person again, and so that brings an influx, and then it just grows from there.
right, right.
Yeah.
Got it. And so, what types of things, Deb, would you say, we should be looking at if we are thinking, like, even, if there are first-time home buyers that are watching, or if there are people that are looking to, like, what is it a good time for right now? Is it a good time to be looking at maybe income properties, or are people who are maybe looking at their second property, should they wait a little bit? Like, what would you say is the right thing? I mean, there's no time like the present, right? But
And
yeah,
that's it. There is no time like the present. And it's like, when's the best time to plant a tree, right? It's, I don't know, is it 10 years ago? Anyway, it's something
yeah,
like that. And so,
yeah,
whenever it's right for you is the right time. And there's no specific sort of rules around that. The other thing to think about, though, and this is sort of, I don't know if you'd call it a trend, um, is purchasing homes and residing with other people, and I don't know, there's been a couple of articles about women of a certain age, um and I mean, I've only read the articles about women, maybe it's other people as well, that you know they own their own homes, and so they decide to sell and then move in to one home together, pool their resources, so that's their form of downsizing. And there's been some really interesting ways of doing it, either moving into maybe a building or a home that's already three separate units, or creating that. So it's creating those different ways of living. You know, I have many friends that are single women that are living in three-bedroom homes. And why? And it's they're empty nesters, and so there's sort of that interesting, just looking at different ways of living. And I mean, you can look anywhere else in the world, and most countries don't live the way that we live here, in North America. That a single woman would live in a three-bedroom home alone is would be something that would be rare in many, many countries. So that idea of not, so much cohabitating, but like I said, you could have separate units within one home, and just looking at different ways of living. And I think that that's something that a lot of young people are starting to do as well, and purchasing homes that are sort of two family type of homes. And I know
hmm,
people that I know someone who purchased a home that had a basement apartment, and she actually, it was her first home, and she was able to finance it, but she lived in the basement apartment and rented out the main floor. And then eventually she moved to the main floor and rented out the basement, and then eventually sold that. And as her family grew, moved to a larger home without a rental. But just sort of getting in that way, and inching your way in, or purchasing together. I've known people that have purchased a home together and shared it as well. It's sort of, we
Hmm.
have this notion of how we should be living, but there's lots of other different ways that we can build our nests.
Yeah, I love that. And you give such great perspective on just getting creative with, they're like anything's possible, right? And, I once was talking to my friend Deanna, who's also a realtor, and she tells her story of how she bought her all she had was $5,000 in her bank account, and she bought her first property. And that's the story that she tells, and she believes fully that everything is possible. And so, in the same breath, how you're sharing, it really helps to have a realtor on your side that can see, your dream and help you figure out ways to make that happen, right? I think that that is really important because, again, another way that you're showing that it's not just about making the sale, right? And then moving on to the next, and numbers, 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 right? It really is about helping people nest, which is why I love that that is your brand, because
Right.
there nesting can be done in so many ways. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean,
Love
I
it.
I feel like I work in customer service. That's my job.
Yeah.
My job is customer
Yeah.
service, and it's about building relationships and helping people do what's best for them. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love that. I love it. So, Deb, tell me how people can get in touch with you. And actually, I believe I have your website here, just magically that's going to appear on the screen. But what's the best way for people to touch base with you? Is it to go to your website? Is it to reach you on social media? What would you say?
About anyway, I mean, they could email me, they could go on my website, they could reach out on social media. Yes, all of the above.
Yeah. And is it okay to just reach out to you and have a conversation and see what's possible? Those are my favorite kinds of conversations with realtors sometimes, to see what other people are doing and see what is possible.
Yes. And so, because this is my life, I like to talk about it and I like to share, and no obligation. I look for people to talk to this stuff, to talk to about this stuff. So
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
me doing
Love it.
it
I
over.
love it. Well, you are so like warm and open, and I feel like there's a no judgment zone with you. And so if anyone is out there and you're thinking, you know what, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'm looking for creative ways, and I want to, work with a realtor that understands what I'm looking for and isn't gonna like roll their eyes at me, I think Deb is your gal. So, so definitely get in touch with Deb at helpingyouNest.ca. Deb, thanks for being here and thanks for sharing. And thank you
Thank
for being a
you.
leader within Happy Healthy Women. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
You're welcome. And so, yes, as I said, anyone looking to be in touch with a realtor, touch base with Deb. And if you are looking to step into your leadership within Happy Healthy Women and share your knowledge and expertise like this amazing woman just has, touch base with us at hhwglobal.com. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And thanks, Deb. You're the best. Cannot
Thank
wait to chat
you.
again with you.
Have a
Have
great
a
day.
great